Well, it's great to be out here again. I sure miss it. Nice and quiet, birds tweeting. Sunny, it's warmer than it has been. And again, quite a few things on my mind which I want to get out. I guess I could call this the diarrhea diaries in a way. And we're in this funny period right now with the pandemic and the lockdown and all that. And of course, now the aristocracy, the ultra rich, our leaders actually want to end the social distancing and everything else and get us all back to work so that their money can keep flowing in. You know, I heard someone talking the other day about how the three countries in the world that are suffering the most from this sort of corporate rich takeover of government is America, Britain, and Australia. So you got environmental rollbacks and all kinds of other things. And you know, it's funny how all this works because you know, we're sort of on the bottom end of it. So we're the worker bees, or the drones, or the ants, or whatever. And those at the top are sort of the vampiric, parasitical, addicted plutocrats. I don't know if that's the right word, but aristocrats is a good word, I suppose. But you know, and I guess I could sit here and say, well, you know, we're suffering, struggling, and they're evil, and we're better than they are, you know. But I think the evidence has shown that even if any of us were in that position of having billions and billions of dollars and then being very desperate about holding on to it and maintaining the wealth and the power and all that structure and everything, right now it seems to be sort of, if not human nature, something that's been learned. So, you know, this sort of crazy idea that everyone needs to work, earn money, work, you know, and that's life, I think is basically brainwashing. It's propaganda. And there's certainly better ways to do things. And some people say, oh, well, that's utopian, it's impossible, you know, and what kind of system are you talking about? Then you get into the whole thing of putting an ism on it. Is it capitalism or socialism or communism, or what exactly is it? You know, all those terms I think are meant to divide, where create sides. You know, it's beautiful out there today. So anyway, in addition to the pandemic, the other day the power went out because of a tornado. And there was a lot of damage and deaths in other states. And here in South Carolina, it wasn't so bad. A lot of trees down. But at any rate, the power was out. And came to some conclusions, realizations about that, about electricity. And what I realized was that the dependence we have on electricity and, you know, power systems generally, it could be, of course, fossil fuels too, but even so, none of that stuff can work without the electricity. The car still requires a battery, and all these other systems are based on it. And there's a lot of evidence that doesn't get discussed much that electricity has been at the core of a lot of problems that we've had. So, for example, before 1900, I think there were only about 10 or 12 diseases, and it's not really that there were lots of other diseases that weren't recognized because of a lack of scientific progress. This is basically, there weren't. There was, cholera, cancer, consumption, asthma, things like that. And what happened is that when electricity came in and began being widely used, the number of diseases just snowballed. You might ask, why is that? Well, it's like, well, in one way, it disrupted the delicate balance of our body's harmony with nature. And I want to be clear here that our bodies are nature. There are these ideas that, it's us and the environment, which I think is a distancing device to say the environment, because basically your body is the environment. We are the environment, and as I've said before, everything's the environment except what's going on up here. But anyway, what electricity did was essentially erase the difference between night and day. So now you could have people working at night, you could have your lights on at night, and there's a day-night cycle on Earth, and there always has been. All of nature is attuned to it, but once we become out of tune with it, then all kinds of problems begin to occur. So anyway, that's one subject, and that's been covered. There's a very good book called something about, what is it? I read it. Lights Out, with an exclamation point. And they go into, the woman that wrote it goes into a lot of detail and depth about this subject. So, my arm's getting tired. So, anyway, electricity, what I realized that when the electricity went out, couldn't turn on the lights, couldn't turn on the phone, couldn't turn on the computer, couldn't run the appliances. All of a sudden, everything became very, very quiet. And rather than being distracted and driven by, compulsive, repetitive switch flipping and knob turning and all this other stuff, the universe, the world itself, sort of magically opened up. And I began to realize, it's like, the sensation, the experience of living like this is something that I hadn't experienced really probably since I was a child, before a lot of this, technological dependency addiction stuff came along. So when the power was off, I loved it. It was fantastic. And, here I am walking in the woods, and I got an electrically powered device on me. Well, I think, I'm doing this for a reason. Hopefully it's a good reason. It's not like the technology can't be used for good reasons, I mean, Kirk had a communicator, but he didn't, whip it out every 15 seconds, did he? Or, wasn't on Facebook or something, or Instagram. So anyway, so if I had to summarize it, I would say that our use of electricity is essentially anti-life. It's anti-life on a biological level, and it's anti-life on an experiential level. It disconnects us from our bodies, from from life itself, the living natural world. So that might seem pretty revolutionary, but if it ever happens to you and the power goes out, check it out for yourself, because you're not going to be able to do it yourself unless you go out in the backyard and go to your power box or whatever and flip the thing off, but you might want to try that too. I did a story about this once, a comic story called Electric City, which was in Toon magazine, and it was based on an experience I had up in Milwaukee when the power went out, and we were in a sort of quasi-urban but city environment. And people, the power went out, and it's like all of a sudden people began to open the curtains and the blinds and look outside, and there were people outside. And pretty soon people ventured out, snuck out, asked the neighbors, what's going on? We don't know. Before you know it, the kids are all playing together. The adults are all talking. It was great. It's like utopia. Then what happened? The power came back on. Everybody went back in their box. The end. So, as far as our needs, electricity, it's like, well, you might need to cook something, you might need to wash something, but, it's gotten way, way, way out of hand. So anyway, where we are now with this system in America and in, of course, other countries, which appears to be teetering and somewhat in danger of collapse. And of course, from my perspective, my weird, Asperger's, isolated artist, islander, last man on earth, omega man perspective, I would love to see it all disappear and be destroyed. Because, here we go, hold on. Okay, that was a bunch of bicyclists, they're actually not supposed to be going through here that fast. That's what it says on the signs. But anyway, yeah. And what's happening with this collapse that's taking place in a lot of areas is that some things are changing. You got people fighting over toilet paper, and perhaps next they're going to be fighting over food. I remember when I was a kid, 10 or 12 years old, something like that, I saw a cartoon. I'll try to look it up and see if I can find it. It was called, the caption read, "The Last Little Bit of Food on Earth." It was basically people fighting over a couple of crumbs. And here's some more people. But, it seems to be bringing out the best and the worst in people, I guess what I'm trying to say. Be right back. So, to some of you, my opinions and views on things might seem negative or judgmental, things like that. But the truth is that I do have patience and understanding with where people are, individual evolution, collectively also. As God knows, I've been there myself. I've had a lot of paranormal experiences. I've experienced Kundalini, which you may not know what that is, but it's an explosive energy going up the chakras. Only once I've experienced that. I've experienced enlightenment or Christ consciousness once for about 15 minutes, which I think was given to me by someone or something, maybe myself. But I'm aware that sort of unity is out there, and that we struggle in our duality plane. Such as it is. But anyway, we're here to learn and grow and develop and things like that, and hopefully not burn the house down, which seems to be what's happening right now. So anyway, what else? Lately, a few friends of mine have been, dealing with the medical industry, pharma. Two different examples, and neither one of these friends of mine, I think, watch this channel, so it's safe to talk about this. One is a friend takes high blood pressure medication, and of course, if you go to a doctor, they test you for what? High blood pressure and cholesterol, and they're going to get you on one or the other. Oh, here comes some more people. They're going to get you on one or the other, and they're going to get you to subscribe and it's going to pay their bills. Hey, hello. Yeah, I know them, the chatter girls. But so anyway, you know, and it pays their bills and keeps the whole industry going. It's like, but what happens to you when you're taking this stuff? High blood pressure medication. Well, one thing about high blood pressure, you know, they just raised the minimum again to get even more people on these drugs. But two things. First, that blood pressure increases with age, and it's natural. And the reason it increases is because as we age, circulation becomes a bit compromised. So in order for the blood to circulate everywhere, to all the organs, to all the extremities, the blood pressure has to go up. Now, that's not to say it can't go up to dangerous levels, but basically if you go to a doctor and your blood pressure is up a little bit and you may be stressed out just from being there, they're going to say, oh, you're in danger of a stroke or a heart attack. You know, you're in danger all the time from all kinds of things, but that's kind of the threat. It's like, you need to do this, you need to pay us for this medication, okay? So that's the first thing. Second thing about all the medications is that they are toxic. They are all toxic. They're poisonous. So you can take a medication for that will cessate, is that the right word? Take care of one symptom, but it will attack other parts of your system. So there will be side effects. They call them side effects, but it's really just the effects. So this medication will bring down your high blood pressure, but the side effects will be weight gain, lack of energy, you know, erectile dysfunction, you know, things like that. So then what do? Oh, well, you could go and get testosterone injections. You'll get your energy level back up, but then you can't lose the weight. And in fact, you never will lose the weight. So the blood pressure goes up so it can, as I said, reach all the extremities. Reason for that is so that it essentially can take out the garbage. It can take out the waste products from your cells. Well, if it can't do it, then that stuff piles up. So you're full of garbage and you're overweight and you're taking this medication, but by God, you don't have to worry about, you know, heart attack or stroke. So anyway, the thing to do would be to stop taking this stuff and deal with the blood pressure in other ways where, you know, you take control of your own health. So what happens with health is that people are so involved in, you know, the wage slavery thing or whatever it is they're doing all day. It's like, well, I can devote some time to my health, but what I can't take care of or don't choose to take care of because of the crap I'm eating or lack of exercise or something like that, I'm going to enlist the medical industry to pick up the slack. And of course, they don't care about your health. They just care about making money, and that's what happens. So they make money and your health deteriorates further, but by that point, you're subscribed, you know, basically for life. So that's one example. And, you know, this friend of mine, one of the things he does is not eat carbs, you know. He's worried that vegetables have too much carbs, fruit, you know. Still trying to lose weight. It'll never happen. Never happen. Not while you're taking those. Okay, the other example is someone who has a dog that is older and doesn't seem to be doing that well. So it's like, take the dog to the vet, and the dog can't tell you what's wrong, right? So they run some tests, and the tests, let's see, well, there's mucus buildup in the lungs, and there's a low white blood cell count. Those tests sound a little expensive, but that's fine. That pays their bills or whatever. So next step, get the dog on 5 different medications for these 2 problems, right off the bat. Now, as I said, these medications are toxic. So they address one symptom, and then they poison other organs. And then when you combine them, 3 or more, you get a toxic soup like nothing else. So in this case, there's 5. And it's like, okay, your dog's getting older. Is this really the best path? It's like, I wouldn't suggest that. You know, if your dog has mucus in the lungs, you might want to change the air filter in your home. And you might want to remember that it's the pollen season. And dogs can probably benefit from vitamin C. Also, which cleans the lungs. And also, if you're feeding them commercial dog food, it's toxic too. It's coming from CAFO animals that never see the light of day. And it's full of all kinds of crap. Human beings wouldn't eat it. So what I've done is, you know, for our dogs, when we had two, was to make dog food. So I knew what was going into it. Ground turkey, ground chicken, occasionally beef, oats, rice, and vegetables. You know, and you vary the proteins. You don't feed them the same thing over and over again. So in the case of this friend I know who has a dog with the problems, it's like, well, do research and learn and try the other alternatives first. Don't just go to them because it's going to be poisonous and toxic, you know? So anyway, what else? The social stuff, the electricity, the medical industry. I'm not sure what else. Hold on. Okay, here's one. Got to get off my chest. And this has to do with art. And, you know, I'm a devoted artist. I work very hard at it, study, work in a lot of different areas. And, you know, some people have faulted me. They're saying, oh, you know, you insult your fan base, or you aren't trying to please them. Oh, worm. Let me get you off the road, buddy. And my job as an artist is not, as I see it, to take you where you've already been. It's to take you where you haven't been before. And when I go exploring, I want to see things I haven't seen before. I don't want to see the same crap over and over again. Here comes some more people. So anyway, you know, one of the axioms of business is to know your audience. You know, I haven't adhered to that too much. As a matter of fact, I've created a lot of stuff where intentionally there was no audience. Or I wanted to create an audience. I wanted to build a mountain and have people come. Oh, that's so cute. Look. Look, kid on a bike. Hi! Yeah, so anyway, what's the point of reliving the same experience over and over again? I want something different. I want something to take me somewhere I've never been before. Not just simply to revisit the same, you know, childhood memory or whatever, the past pleasure. Past pleasures. It's getting busy out here. What the hell is this? Oh, it's a service truck. My God, getting really interrupted out here, aren't I? Well, it's a nice day, so I'm gonna turn around and go back. Hold on. And there they go. They got the US flag and the Clemson football flag. Anyway. So, yeah, so example be the Bergenberg Chronicles, my Minister Sinister stuff, which is basically a lot of it's stream of consciousness, kind of laying on the psychologist's couch, letting things come out and discovering things. I created that for basically a non-existent readership, and that is blue-collar workers who don't read comics. It's like, here's a comic for you. Here's a comic for the welder, you know, for the garbage man. And it's like, you know, I was happy to do that. I've seen what's happened in comics over the years, and that's a whole nother subject. But anyway, so I would say that electricity as we use it is essentially anti-life. And you know, we have our mythologies like Frankenstein, where electricity brings life to the inanimate, body. And of course, what we know now is that could never happen. So anyway, that's it. Electricity as it exists in nature, of course it is in living organisms. It's in the atmosphere. What happens with lightning is that lightning discharges balance out the charge between the earth and the upper atmosphere. So they have a function, But a lot of our use of electricity is harmful. So, people who live near power yards, whatever they're called, generators, electrical fields, things like that, have higher rates of cancer, problems sleeping, things like that. Some people that are very sensitive to electrical fields, and we are all sensitive, it just, I think, depends how much attention we're paying to it. The sleep can be affected by simply having your head too close to an electric socket. And there's also a lot of talk about 5G towers and how this is bad for the nervous system. But when things get revved up, when your brain gets revved up and you're in this addictive mode with the screen and the electricity and the da-da-da and all these factors, life itself in its purest form doesn't exist anymore. Now, anyone who's a pet owner, you can look at your dog or your cat or canary or whatever, gerbil, and be reminded, that's what they're living. That's what they're living. You can give them a name, you can post their picture on Facebook, and it's like they don't understand that. They don't care about that. They're in the moment. They live in the moment. So anyway, as I said in the beginning, we're all kind of on our journey of evolution, and the question is, are we going to bring the house down, bring the whole thing down, from not learning fast enough, making too many mistakes. And right now, with all the things going on, climate stuff, Greenland melting, species going extinct, and people wasting their time and energy with childish, BS, basically, addictions, slavery, and all these other things. And I saw this guy, George Monbiot, who I knew about, the journalist. He coincidentally says a lot of the same things I do, that he talks about the commons. So it's like, don't build, a million houses for a million people or a million things, keep reproducing these things. Just build a few of them and let people share them. Bring down the energy use, bring down the use of materials. Very sensible, and when you have someone with a mind like that who can see outside the system, from outside the system, precisely locate flaws and problems and recommend antidotes and solutions for them, it's like, well, that's the kind of people we need. Some might say that's the kind of leaders that we need, but I don't really believe in this leader thing. It's like leadership, politicians and leadership. There should be our servants, not taking us somewhere where they think we ought to go. Now, a scientist, for example, is a little different from a politician or a leader, because a scientist, hopefully, and of course there's all kinds of exceptions to that, is supposed to be impartial and objective and dealing only with the facts. Of course, as we know, we wind up with them being their own sort of religion unto themselves. But anyway, in terms of the natural world, climate, things like that, they seem to know what they're talking about. So I know I said I was going to be done, but more stuff burbled up to the surface. So yeah, ciao.